is rooted in their personal history, whose isn't, and a personal narrative is fine when they offer it, but sometimes they are treated as a sideshow, a curiosity added to an event, but taken less seriously than other experts. I see this play out most often for my autistic colleagues, who have professional expertise in psychology, medicine, social science, human development, and education. They are asked to be part of events about autism or neurodiversity, but they aren't treated the same as other participants, and they are very rarely paid the same if they are paid at all. While I hate that disabled people are forced to tell their stories, I do love stories. In fact, parts of this book will involve some of my own tales. I just don't think most disability origin stories are very interesting. Mine is certainly not. Some are, don't get me wrong. There's a guy in one of my amputee groups who had his leg ripped off in a grain auger accident, and he did not pass out while he waited for emergency rescue. It's always a shocker for newbies in my amputee groups who have come with stories less gnarly. I love when he shares his story with obvious relish. He's got it well rehearsed for other amputees. This kind of sharing among those in the community is different, though. The lessons are different. It's usually not about being on the other side of something we've overcome. We survived or were simply born that way. Some of us also have PTSD, but we also have normal lives and do average things. We ask each other about how kids adjusted, how family members reacted. There's commiseration about dating and jobs. The improvements we see are incremental adjustments, sometimes nonlinear, with more surgeries needed, other conditions to manage, insurance woes, equipment issues. We compare prosthetic feet and offer ideas about physical therapy. We don't all agree about how to approach situations, nor about what feat works best, nor about dating for that matter. Things aren't tidy or managed. I like when it's just us. And I like when the stories aren't crafted for non-disabled expectations, like so many disability stories are. This is a book about the stories that disabled people tell that non-disabled people usually aren't interested in. I am a disabled person who uses various technologies, but my thoughts on technology aren't the whole story. I don't use all the technologies out there aimed at my disabilities. It's hard enough to get some that I do use. And I certainly don't claim to represent all disability communities or to be a representation of any sort, because we are all individuals. Instead, I intend to take seriously the experiences of disabled people in a world that often considers technology the solution to the problem of disability. This is a real fear, and I hope this book will help you understand why. When people posit disability as a problem, they look for solutions. Disabled people can and do have problems, which sometimes include pain and dysfunction. However, many of our problems are social, structural, and practical problems that stem from the idea that disabled people are fundamentally flawed, unworthy of inclusion, broken, or inadequate. This is ableist thinking. We have to resist these kinds of assumptions, which produce simplistic disability stories that collapse disabled people into stereotypes. When I was in grad school, before I was disabled, I made great friends with my fellow student, Jill. I didn't think of myself as disabled, and it would be another 10 years before I would be diagnosed as having Crohn's disease, but I was already having intermittent issues with inflammation and flares of symptoms that didn't really make sense together yet. She was a paraplegic wheelchair user. She passed away over a decade ago now, but back then, we hung out with a larger group from our cohort, and Jill and I got along especially well. We had classes together, occasionally shopped together, and she'd invite us all to her apartment for group hangs. She was originally from New Jersey, but had moved to New Mexico, where the climate was better for her. She loved New Mexico. She was just away to earn a master's degree, 2 years in our program in Virginia, then she planned to return home to New Mexico to teach. She was full of jokes, and it was easy to be with her. On our campus, disability accessibility was shitty, to say the least, and she was the first physically disabled person whose experience I could really see clearly every day since we were in so many activities together. I remember the long routes we had to take to avoid stairs. I was lucky to be in a ground floor apartment, so she could occasionally visit where I lived, though the bathroom door was too narrow, so visits weren't terribly long. Her own home wasn't ideal either. She had very little choice.